Hello, fellow members of the Midnight Society. Welcome back to another episode review from the show Are You Afraid of the Dark? Last time, we covered The Tale of the Lonely Ghost, a not-so-scary story about a girl spending the night in a haunted house. Tonight, we're in for a special treat. Not only was this the 4th episode of the first season, it was also the pilot that got the series greenlit on Nickelodeon. It originally aired as a special Halloween episode on October 25th, 1991, before becoming part of the regular rotation in August of 1992. As a result, not everything in the episode makes sense when you actually watch them in the order that they aired, but we'll let that slide. Does it live up to the Are You Afraid of the Dark reputation? Let's find out. Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society, I call this Season 1, Episode 4, The Tale of the Twisted Claw. We open on a shot of what is arguably the best analog alarm clock I've ever seen. A motorcycle? Are you kidding me? Due to the cool factor alone, I'm going to ignore the fact that the kid probably can't even read this thing since there's no numbers on it. A young boy is sleeping in his bed when suddenly the clock stops ticking, prompting him to mumble, "Not again!" Apparently, he gets upset when you mess with his alarm clock. His bedroom door opens, revealing fog and light obscuring a shadowy figure. The figure moves out of the fog and advances on the kid in his bed. He turns to see the shade, when suddenly he wakes up, relieved that it was all just a dream. That is until we see the black-cloaked figure looming over him in the daylight. He screams, and we cut back to the Midnight Society, where my favorite member of the crew, Eric, is telling the story. Everyone is on the edge of their seats. Kiki asks, "What happened?" To which Eric replies,
Don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I mean, I don't know.
Eric says that that he'll come up with an ending later. So you see, this is why nobody, and by nobody I mean I, don't like you, Eric. You've got a negative attitude, right? You're always being a dick to the others, and when you're tasked with the one thing that is the entire purpose of the Midnight Society, you're like, I'll come up with it next time. Nope. I move that Eric be removed from the group. All in favor? I'll wait. Gary laments that it's almost time to go and they haven't had a full story yet, prompting David to volunteer. Kristen then says that David hasn't told a story in a long time and, well, this is where things get a little bit weird if you've watched these episodes as they aired, because David just told the previous story, The Tale of the Lonely Ghost. Now, one could argue that, a lot of time passes in between episodes, so I'm going to let it slide. But you better not disappoint me again, David, okay? Because if you do, I'm going to whine about it. I really am. David's tale opens on the night before Halloween, which he calls Mischief Night. Now, I personally had never heard of this before, and I thought it was another weird Canadian thing making its way into the show, but as it turns out, October 30th is commonly referred to as Mischief Night and also Devil's Night in various parts of the eastern United States. Though, Canada does use Devil's Night and also Cabbage Night to describe the same day. Cabbage Night? I mean, I guess nothing says fun like rooting through a neighbor's garden for some rotting cabbage to throw around the neighborhood.
Give me a break.
Anyway, we're treated to some cartoonishly silly music while teens play Ding Dong Ditch and toilet paper neighbors' houses. We're then introduced to our main characters, Kevin and Dougie, standing outside a small iron gate to a large house. Kevin, he appears to be either peeing or touching himself while trying to coax Dougie into approaching the house. It's believed that a witch lives in the house, hence Dougie's hesitation. But, hey, Kevin convinces him through the power of peer pressure.
Do it!
The boys quietly approach the front door while Kevin pulls out a can of shaving cream. Now, one of the Golden Girls opens the front door, and Kevin sprays her in the face with the shaving cream, causing her to knock over a vase in the hallway. Time out. I've got questions. So, as they approach, Kevin shushes Dougie, claiming that she'll hear them. But then, the moment he gets to the door, he doesn't knock, he doesn't ring the doorbell or anything. He just preps the can as though he expects the door to open. What? Starting the story off a little loosey-goosey, huh, David? Okay.
Sorry.
The boys flee the scene before Blanche comes back to the door and breaks into a sinister laugh. In fact, it's so sinister that it actually sounds like it's being dubbed over by someone else.
Don't do it! 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 Don't do
We get a clever little transition from Rose's laughter to Dougie in a mask attempting to scare his dad with a scary laugh. Dougie's dad just reacts in a way that says, "I'm sorry we ever had you."
You finish your dinner?
It's now Halloween night, and Kevin shows up in the same bum costume that he's apparently worn the previous years. Now, before he and Dougie head out trick-or-treating, Kevin tells some kids who are about to get candy from Dougie's mom that he heard the candy is poisoned this year. The kids all then look very, very sad, and Dougie's mom does nothing. She does nothing to assure them that the candy is safe. She just, remains silent for a moment, and then slowly reaches into her candy bowl. Apparently, just like her husband, she hates children. After a bit of trick-or-treating, the boys wind up in front of the house from the night before. Now, it's at this point that Kevin reveals the old lady's name to be Miss Clove. However, just to be clear, I will be referring to her as one of the delightful ladies from the Golden Girls for the rest of the episode.
Get out of here!
Kevin thinks that they should trick-or-treat here because there's no possible way that Dorothy would recognize them from the night before. Dougie reluctantly agrees after being bullied into it by his best friend.
Just do it!
Sophia answers the door being overly sweet, which is an immediate red flag. Me personally, I'd have gotten out of there, but they stick around. She tells them that she has a special treat for them since they were the only ones brave enough to come to her house. She presents them with the wooden claw of a vulture and tells them that whoever has it will be granted 3 wishes. Wishes. The boys don't want it naturally, but Rose insists, so they take it. And then she tells them to be careful what they wish for. Nope. Look, I've played enough D&D to know that anytime you come across a Ring of Wishes or a genie, DM's going to be a dick, and they're going to try to screw you on that wish no matter how you phrase it. Boys, like I told Amanda in the previous episode,
It's a trap!
the boys understandably don't believe that the claw grants wishes. And while on the way home, Dougie offhandedly says,
Well, I wish we can go home and lose this stupid trick-or-treating.
the boys are then set upon by what I can only describe as one of the gangs that was tormenting the warriors.
Warriors, come on to play!
Are they wearing phantom masks? I mean, I guess they sort of look intimidating in their matching leather jackets, but then they lose all credibility when you see that they all ride bicycles. I don't know. Anyway, Kevin loses his candy in a scuffle with the lead phantom, and then the boys run away and hide in some trash cans. They decide to, call it a night early, and Kevin remarks that Dougie got his wish. The next day at school, Kevin now has the claw and taunts Dougie with it, who says it gives him the creeps. Kevin says that it's about to give him something he's wanted since he was a kid. Yes! This is what I'm talking about. Here we go. What's the wish? What's the wish? $1 million? Or maple leaves? Or whatever the Canadian currency is? Huh? A date with the prettiest girl at school? Huh? A water park in his backyard? A jacuzzi filled with chocolate pudding? To have the face of a Botticelli and the body of a Greek god?
I wish it could beat Bostic in the 600.
Okay, hold on. The wish that you've had since you were a kid, which you still are, by the way, was to beat Bostic at the 600. Canada, your writers don't know how children work.
Trick or treat.
I'd also like to point out some other oddities in this scene. The first shot shows a kid walking down the hallway who's wearing a poster board that reads Bostic for President on it. And then another kid hands a flyer to Kevin, and it has something about Bostic on it, which kind of leads to Kevin's tirade. So, this school either takes class president, way too seriously, or, I don't know, maybe Bostic's just, the world's biggest douche who's, full of himself, or he's just got a great PR rep. Who knows? Also, when Kevin first reveals, what he's always wanted since he was a kid, there's kind of an unintended implication there that I definitely don't think is what they were going for.
What's gonna give me something I've wanted since I was a kid? Bostic.
Never seen you looking so lovely as you did tonight.
We cut to the big race of the 600 taking place during what appears to be PE. Now, this is the first time that we get any kind of indication as to what kind of a person Bostic is. And based on Kevin's attitude towards him, I'm thinking he's a real jerk.
Look, Kev.
Wait, he's just a nice Canadian teen that's about to be murdered because of Kevin's obsession with running?
Yeah.
We then get a leg race to some sweet tunes that sound like they were composed by Kenny Loggins himself. Bostic is winning the race with Kevin hot on his heels until a dog runs out from behind a nearby tree, tripping him, allowing Kevin to win the race. Now, the dogs seem to appear and disappear out of nowhere, and also nobody else except for Dougie saw it, leading him to believe it was Kevin's wish coming true. We also learned Bostic's big flaw out of this tragedy: acting.
Oh, it hurts my leg. Oh, it hurts.
Back at the Midnight Society, the gang spells out that bad things are happening when the boys make a wish. You know, in case the audience hadn't figured that out by themselves. And it's at this point in the episode where I suffered a personal low. I promised myself I wasn't going to get emotional about this, but I found myself agreeing with Eric.
Hey, I'd wish for $1 million and take my chances.
Back in the story, it's now night at Dougie's house, and his parents have gone out for the evening. Dougie and Kevin are arguing about the wooden claw. Dougie thinks that B. Arthur gave them an actual cursed item that's causing bad things to happen whenever they make a wish. Kevin he dismisses this notion entirely. To him, it's utter poppycock. He doesn't say it that way, but you get the idea. Dougie says that he wants to just return the claw to Estelle Getty and apologize so that he can tell his parents he did the right thing. In a tiff, Kevin grabs the claw and wishes that Dougie would just lose his parents entirely. There's a moment where both boys look shocked at what Kevin just did, but Kevin's still trying to convince himself that this magic stuff isn't real. Then the show gets real dark. The phone rings, and it's the police telling Dougie that his parents were just in a car accident. Dougie reacts by ripping the phone out of the wall and smashing it on the ground, which honestly, that's more reasonable than what I would have done, which is throat punch Kevin, Liam Neeson style. Kevin tells Dougie to just, wish for his parents to be okay. But Dougie says that every time they make a wish, something bad happens. He then immediately follows that up by absent-mindedly saying,
I wish Grant's here. He knows what to do.
Kevin reacts by reiterating something that's been brought up a couple of times throughout the episode, and that is that Dougie's grandfather is dead. The boys then hear a car horn outside, and they rush to the window to see a classic car rolling up to the house in a fog with no driver behind the wheel. Dougie says that that's his grandfather's car, and Kevin immediately starts flipping out. He wants to wish the ghost away, and Dougie's like, no, that's the wrong wish. And then they get into a struggle over the claw, and it is the least interesting struggle that has ever been captured on camera. All the while, an invisible grandpa is slowly making his way up to the front door. The doorbell ringing distracts Kevin long enough for Dougie to grab the claw and make his final wish. He wishes that they never broke Betty White's vase and that it never happened. The claw then magically disappears, causing the boys to turn into Bill and Ted. Whoa. The doorbell then rings again, making the boys think that something ominous is still lurking. Dougie slowly opens the door to reveal his parents. They claim they forgot their keys, hence having to ring the doorbell, but then, they immediately say that they almost got run off the road by a truck driver? How were you driving if you forgot your keys? I think what happened is that Dougie's wish transported him and Kevin into some sort of parallel universe, because then Dougie's mom immediately says this.
I say we raid the fridge for some ice cream.
Who keeps ice cream in a refrigerator? You know what ice cream kept in a refrigerator is called? Cream. The boys are still sort of in shock and go back to the front door to look for the ghost car they saw earlier. It's now gone. Dougie then explains to the simple-minded Kevin that by wishing they never broke the vase, all the previous wishes were undone. The doorbell then rings again, prompting Kevin to ask Dougie if he's sure the car was gone. You both looked outside together. Get your head in the game, Kevin. They open the door to find Rue McClanahan's vase there with a note that reads trick or treat. As the camera sweeps over the Golden Girls estate, David finishes his story by saying that all they could hear was the sound of the wind blowing through the trees, or was it the cackle of a sly witch? For the record, those sound nothing alike. That to the point where in the episode, you have the sound of the wind blowing, followed by the cackle of a witch. David, I need you to hear me, David. Here's the sound of the wind blowing through the trees-ish. Followed by the cackle of a witch, which is... That may have been more like a leprechaun or something, I'm not really sure. But you get the idea. 2 different noises, not even close.
Whatever.
David's story ends with the rest of the Midnight Society giving him approving smiles before Gary closes the session and extinguishes the storytelling fire. Now for the review. Knowing that this was the pilot episode, I was initially pumped, but coming off of a fairly dull David story, I really wasn't expecting much from another one. I wouldn't say that this is as weak as the previous episode. I mean, the modern take on the monkey's paw story definitely has room for a lot of fun and scares, though you can tell that the budget kind of holds this one back from having a lot of either. The idea of messing with fate only to have disastrous consequences is definitely an interesting one, but the poor execution of some of the wishes kind of prevents it from being truly frightening. An example of this would be when Dougie wishes his dead grandfather back to life. This would have been a prime opportunity for some cool zombie makeup, or even like implied undeath, if like they kept the figure mostly in shadow. Because I mean, look, sometimes it's what you don't see that is the most terrifying. Unfortunately, by having nothing at all, this sort of like an invisible ghost, there just wasn't any menace. Younger me probably would have had fun with this episode, but he definitely wouldn't have been scared.
See? There's nothing to be scared of.
The child actors in this episode weren't terrible, but they weren't great either. I mean, they really weren't given a whole lot to react to, so maybe it's not on them. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, they actually play pretty whiny, which I know sounds like a bad thing, but I think that actually captures that age pretty well. I know I was definitely a whiner at that age, so maybe they did better than I gave them credit for. The adult actors, not really a whole lot to speak of in this episode. I mean, Dougie's parents have like 2 lines each, and they're forgettable. Miss Clove, I mean, she only gets 1 scene, and, in that scene, though, she lays it on super thick, and I mean that in the best possible way. Her performance leaves you wondering, like, is she sweet? Is she sinister? What's going on here? So good job there. Overall, I was really hoping that David's second story was going to wow me. And while it was definitely an improvement over the first one, which I guess technically is the second one in the way they've ordered it, they've done a Star Wars thing here, I think. I don't know. But in any event, it's just not scary. So, unfortunately, David, I am sorry, but that means that this tale also does not meet the approval of the Midnight Society.
Yeah, well, what can you do?
What did you all think of David's story? Did you see it as a kid? What were some of your favorite tales from the series? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and a share. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon to be notified when more Midnight Society episodes go up. If you'd like to become a member of this Midnight Society, join the Facebook discussion group or head on over to Patreon where you can sign up to support the show. Get access to these videos 1 week before everyone else, as well as some other cool perks. Be sure to check out the next episode about the tale of the Hungry Hounds. Until next time, are you afraid of the dark?
Oh, it hurts my leg. Oh, it hurts.